we're live. Welcome everybody. Today is a very, very special day. I'm sure you guys saw the title of today's live and saw this on our calendar. This is the day I've been waiting for ever since I started working here. Hey everyone. Today's the day. It's happening. The crop that got me into gardening to begin with is getting planted here. And in fact, the exact plant that got me into gardening is going to be being planted here. So what you see before me is a pup of a blue java banana plant. Blue java is infamously known as the ice cream banana because supposedly the fruit tastes like vanilla ice cream. I have tried them. This is not true, but they are very good. They kind of are like a sweet tart flavor, and it's a very complex flavor, so they're very delicious. But they do not taste like ice cream. So, yeah, this is a banana plant. And so this is a division from a mother plant. You can see, I just went and cut it off this morning. You can see the roots right there. So we'll have a lesson on exactly how bananas grow and how we grow them today. I am a banana expert. I know more about growing bananas than any other plant. Hopefully you all will learn a lot about bananas today and how to grow them. But we have like a really, really nice piece of this root mass right here, this bulb. Because bananas are not trees, they actually grow from this bulb called a corm. And so we've got a really, really nice piece of it. And so there's going to be a lot of energy to push this plant into a productive state once we get it into the ground. But since I see nobody has joined yet, we'll do a quick tour of the garden. I'm going to put this back in the bag and in a shady location. Or just right here. I think this is fine for now. I'll just cover it with the bag. And we'll have a look around the garden. I wanted to point out this area right here around the fig tree, our green manure patch, doing exceptionally. This has been a massive success. And the one thing that I want you guys to know is that we did not use any fertilizer here, not a single ounce. Look at how healthy these plants are. No fertilizer, only microbes, only biology. I didn't even inoculate with anything, I believe. All I did was I top dressed with a very, very small amount, probably about 1/4 of an inch of the wood chip compost soil. So the wood chip humus, so basically decomposed wood chips, that's it. That's the amendment, decomposed wood chips that were harvested right on site from this area. So this stuff right here, this is the decomposed wood chips. This stuff is amazing. This is incredible. So we're going to be using this as the main amendment for our bananas today. But if we just take a look around the garden, we can see what else is going on. That lemon verbena is coming back so strong after we cut it to the ground. Take a look at how hard we cut it back, everyone. Very, very hard. And I've never seen growth looking this healthy on a lemon verbena. So that just goes to show how beneficial pruning can be. So then let's have a look at we'll have a look at some of the other highlights. This is the native area. Check it out. So look at these beautiful, elegant clarkias that are coming in. All the wildflowers are starting to come in now, and we're going to be getting the wildflowers reseeding and coming back pretty much every year. And they'll always be a part of this system right here. But we got tons of clarkias. We have lupines, purple innocents. A lot of these lupines are actually going to seed already, and they're going to reseed themselves, which is great. We have tidy tips. We have gilias. Not want to end the video. We have gilias. The needle grasses are coming in really nice. We're actually going to be putting in some deer flower, also known as deerweed, Actimaspon glaber, and a bunch of other stuff in here is doing great, including the sages, white sage, black sage. So the other thing we're going to be talking about today is a nematicidal cover crop, because I discovered that my bananas have nematodes, so we need to get rid of those. These beds also have nematodes. So for our treatment plan in these beds, we planted a nematicidal cover crop, and we'll be going over that. Other than that, everything in the garden looks great. Joe is over here prepping these holes for some more native plants. This is going to be our new food forest area. When we talked about how to prep holes for native plants, back in November, I believe, when we started that area over there. So we'll have a couple things in here. We're going to go over this at a future date. I want to get started on planting the bananas because it's going to take a while. But yeah, all of our biomass plants are doing great too. Our service crop support species, whatever you want to call them. There's our Tithonia coming back after a hard cut pigeon pea. I want to show you all this one over here, because you guys remember how far we cut this one back. Look at that. That's going to be really tall again in just a couple months. So these plants can take a lot of pruning, a lot of abuse. That's actually what they're built for, believe it or not. They're built to be cut back and regrow. Here's the other Tithonia. And most of this growth that you see has been in like the past week or two, actually. It's growing like a couple inches every day, I'd say. Anyways, kohlrabi looks great. Everything in here looks good. You can see the yerba mate poking through. We took a couple of these achiras out. I did some root divisions. Propagated those too. You propagate that just like you propagate bananas. So, yeah. Let's talk about bananas now. I'm going to get in the shade right here so my phone doesn't overheat. Okay, let's begin. So, bananas. I'm sure a lot of you didn't know that you can grow bananas in California. You absolutely can. You just have to be selective about your variety. So there are a couple main banana genetic groups, and these genetic groups are derived from two species of banana that are wild types, as we call them, the wild species of banana. So there are actually dozens of species of banana, as far as I know. But the two that modern edible varieties, or most of them, are derived from would be Musa acuminata and Musa balbisiana. Acuminata is a deep tropical species, and balbisiana is a subtropical and highland species. So the more balbisiana genetics, or more bee genetics that bananas have, generally the more cold resistant and hardy they are. So this blue java is an ABB. It contains one pair of chromosomes from the acuminata and two from the balbisiana. So very, very hardy species overall. There are hardier species, but this one is pretty good, I'd say. And how do bananas grow? So everything you see right here, everything above this point, above this, which is the corm is actually the actual stem of the plant. It's a modified stem that grows underground and produces offshoots, much like potatoes do. So that's what this is. This is basically like an eye on the corm that sprouted and became a new plant. And it'll send out more of these pups as the plant grows. But everything above here is leaf. You can see this is one of the leaves, and the leaf sheath extends all the way down to the bottom, like so. And so this stem is actually comprised of overlapping leaf sheaths. And that's how they grow. So you can cut one of these off of the mother plant and just stick it in the ground. That's how you propagate them. But, since we have poor alkaline soil here, we're actually going to need to amend the soil before we do that. So here's what we're going to be using. Of course, wood chip compost, wood chip soil. We're going to be using the wood chip soil right there. Beautiful stuff. We harvested that from the other area, and we have an entire other tote full of this. And we're going to be using it all around the garden when we're doing end-ground plantings. So it's beautiful stuff. We're going to be using chicken manure, organic chicken manure. Always go for the organic stuff because the inorganic stuff is more likely to contain pesticides. And we are going to be using this fertilizer right here. Citrus and fruit tree fertilizer. And the reason is, in addition to the chicken manure, because the chicken manure alone contains enough fertility, is we're interested in these mycorrhizae right here. We want to have the mycorrhizae in the soil. And then one last thing would be azomite. I forgot to get the bag of azomite. I'm going to do that right now. So I'll go get the azomite. I'm going to need your help in a moment, Nelly. You get another one of these small stuff. So here's the azomite. And the rest of this will definitely be for this hole. And this is rock dust. This contains a broad spectrum of micronutrients that are fairly easily available to your plants. And we're going to need that if we're planting bananas. And bananas really benefit from azomite. Couple myths I've heard about bananas. So myth number one is bananas do not grow outside of the tropics. That is not true. As I said, certain varieties possess a very large degree of cold tolerance. Myth number two is that bananas do not have seeds. That is not true. Many of these triploid or tetraploid or like multiple chromosomal banana varieties actually do have seeds. However, the seeds are developed and immature, and you just eat them when you eat the fruit. Another myth, and this is a really bad piece of advice that I've heard, is that bananas feed so heavily that you can only grow them with reliably and get them to yield well with inorganic fertilizers. That is just simply not true. My bananas that I have grown are 100% regenerative, and we're going to be doing regenerative bananas here. So I'm going to begin filling the hole. We're going to want roughly 1 part of the native soil to 1 part of the wood chip compost. And this stuff is incredible. So I'm going to start shoveling this back in. And we're going to want to mix it around. And this is where I'm going to need your help, Nelly. We want to mix this stuff around as we get it back in. We want to mix it around. I would use a larger shovel, in fact. I would use a larger shovel, actually, Nelly, to mix this around. So another one of the native soil. Another one of the wood chip compost. So we'll do 2 right there. So that's enough to mix around. Then I'm going to add a little bit of azomite. Nice handful of azomite. We don't need a lot of this fertilizer because it's just for the mycorrhizae. I need to get a spoon. I'd say probably about a couple tablespoons of this. Don't need a lot, folks. Mycorrhizae are very powerful. And then chicken manure. And chicken manure is very rich. I'm actually not sure how to use. I don't want to burn the plant, so I'm going to be a bit careful. So I'd say we'll start with like 1 shovel. So that's basically 20% chicken manure. Now we mix it around. So you can go ahead and mix that, Nelly. Any questions about growing bananas? I'm your banana guru. So ask me anything. I've been growing bananas for 11 years. And yes, I have harvested bananas that I grew myself, and they are beyond delicious. They are so delicious you cannot even imagine. It'll put any banana you buy from the supermarket to shame. I should have brought my fork. Let's get that really well mixed. Let me see. It's okay to use native soil. You want to use native soil. Because then, once the banana gets established, it'll begin putting its roots out into the surrounding area. Another thing to know about bananas. So not only are they gigantic herbs, but their root systems are shallow and wide. So the root systems will extend roughly 2 feet down and out laterally from the plant up to 12 feet. So because of that, we want to give them a good start. We also want to make sure that we start conditioning the soil around them. So we'll get that in there. Looks good. See, this stuff is already looking way better. I'm not going to add vermiculite. I was thinking about it, but I don't think we need to do that. I think we'll be okay because we are working with life. Life will improve the drainage of the soil, and that's another thing that bananas need. Bananas need really good drainage. So we'll do another round of this stuff. Bananas need excellent drainage, so make sure to give them good drainage. You don't want to put too much organic matter because then they won't grow outside of the planting hole. And they'll just circle around inside of the hole. Now we're going to help this situation further by doing cover crops. Did I do 2 of each? I did, didn't I?
You did 2 of each.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. I sometimes don't realize what I'm doing as I'm talking. So then chicken manure. Chicken manure. Azomite. Nice handful. And 2 tablespoons, 2 heaping tablespoons of this fertilizer. You would use a lot more of this stuff if we were just using it. But I think the chicken manure is good because it'll have lots of organic matter. And then we mix. Anybody want to do the honors?
Yep, I got it.
So after we do one more partially filling, we can get the pup in. Because we're going to want it, you see where it starts to turn from green to pink on the pseudo stem, as we call it? That's the soil level. So we want to plant it at roughly the same soil level. That will basically make the transition easier for this plant. So I'll be right back. I need to get something. Now the unfortunate situation here are these little bumps you see on the roots right here. That is from infection by parasitic nematodes. I had not realized that bananas had nematode problems around here, but apparently they do. So I've developed a plan for treating these banana plants, and the first thing is cut off any of the roots that contain the nematodes. Just cut them off. Your plant will make new roots, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of energy stored in this corm right here, as we call them, the corm of the plant, and the plant will be fine. The only thing you might want to do in addition is if it starts to wilt a lot, take off some of the leaves. In general, you actually want to minimize how much you prune each banana plant. Each pup, I would say, or each shoot that comes from the root system, if you want to manage them for production. We're going to be managing these for production, but some people manage their bananas for biomass and prune them heavily, but in general, bananas do not like being pruned that much. And see, this one was not a clean cut right here, so I'm also going to take these off. All of the roots have them, but I want to keep the roots that look a bit healthier, and just leave them. So yeah, that's pretty good. So we'll take a lot of these diseased roots off. So that's phase 1 of the nematode control plan. Yeah, let's do another mixing. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 is going to be the application of JMS. So Jadam microbe solution. We've talked about that. I do one of that, one of that, one of that, one of that, one of chicken manure, then a handful of azomite, then 2 heaping tablespoons of the fertilizer. Okay. And we'll concentrate more of that fertilizer near the topsoil where where a lot of the root growth is going to happen. So yeah, again, we're going to prune off those roots. We're going to apply JMS. We're going to apply mycorrhizae because mycorrhizae have a protective effect against nematodes. And then we're going to do a cover crop, a special cover crop that is formulated for 2 things. 1, residue production. 3 things. 1, residue production. 2, nutrient accumulation. And 3, nematicidal action. There are actually some plants that can inhibit or kill nematodes. So I will bring the cover crop mix right over here right now. Yeah, did we put the mustard seeds in? I think we're going to end up using the last of this stuff. I'm going to need to order more. So, I forgot to put these ones in. But we're going to need to use the rest of them. Yeah, we'll use the rest. Or almost all of them. Nice, looking good. So, this is going to be our cover crop blend for the area. I'll just dump them in. We'll get more. So here's the cover crop blend. And I'd like to put them in this little thing so you can shake them around. So this blend contains several nematicidal plants, right? The first nematicidal plant that we have is Huacate, or Peruvian black mint, also known as Mexican marigold. This is a species of marigold that can get up to 6 feet tall. So what is this plant doing for us? Three things, actually. One, it is encouraging mycorrhizal. Marigolds, I believe, are very mycorrhizal. Two, it is producing lots of biomass. Three, it is nematicidal. And actually, four, it's also an insectary plant. So all these plants are multifunctional. So marigolds are known for their nematode inhibiting abilities. So that's one. Two, we have sorghum Sudan grass. Sorghum Sudan grass will produce lots of biomass. It'll produce lots of root exudates to increase organic matter content in the soil and condition the soil around the bananas in the areas that we are not amending. And three, it's going to also inhibit nematodes. I believe it produces certain root exudates that will inhibit nematodes as well. Then sun hemp. So sun hemp will produce residue. It will fix nitrogen, and it'll inhibit nematodes. I believe it's mostly a non-host plant. And then we have Florida broadleaf mustard, which will produce residue that inhibits nematodes and decompact the soil. And then we have buckwheat, which accumulates potassium and phosphorus for the bananas. And then we have flax, which builds mycorrhizal. So all these plants have a job to do. In fact, I think we might need more flaxseed. I want to put more flax in here. But all these plants have a job to do that is going to be beneficial for the system, basically, and be beneficial for the bananas. So they're going to improve the soil. They're going to accumulate the nutrients that the bananas need the most. That is nitrogen and potassium. And they are going to produce lots of residue to chop and drop around the bananas. They're going to inhibit the nematodes. And they're going to attract lots of beneficial insects, because buckwheat's also very good at that. So this is a great example of how we can design a cover crop mix to meet our needs in a particular situation. So I'm going to go add some more flaxseed. Did you add another? You're done with that one? Did you put the fertilizer?
Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Let's see how deep it is. So I'll try fitting the banana plant in the hole in a minute, but I need to get more flaxseed. Alright, and we're going to probably want to inoculate this at some point. I'll probably just do a drench, because I'm not sure if we have the right inoculum for the sun hemp in here. But yeah, so this is going to be our cover crop mix, and we're going to be doing that last. And additionally, we're going to be constructing earthworks around the area. So we'll be creating another berm, especially for the banana plant. Okay. So we're going to try and fit this in here now. We're doing. And this soil is pretty moist, so I'm not going to worry about watering it. Yeah, that's perfect. And so when we plant them, I'm going to scoot it a bit towards the back of the hole. Yeah, this soil is looking very good now. I'm going to scoot it a bit towards the back of the hole. Because you see how... So this plant is going to grow out and around from the areas where I cut it off from the mother plant. So we want to position it so that the areas where the new growth is going to occur, be facing out. We want the front that's away from the original connection to be facing out. Actually, let's do one more round of that so we can start burying it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what we want. We want that to be facing. That's how I want to orient the banana plant. And you can see we're already using up a lot of the soil that was taken out. But we're going to have all this leftover soil, all this leftover native soil to construct a basin, a berm for the banana plant that we're going to connect to the other berms so that we can sow the cover crop around it and so that we can water. It's a great way to do it, folks. I'm hoping we'll be able to finish this berm before we have to end the live. But we can let the live go a bit longer if we need to. Honestly, I'm just going to take the rest of the chicken manure home since I'm not going to ask for reimbursement. I'll use it. I'll use it on my bananas. Awesome. Looking great. And so that's the beautiful thing about bananas. Every season, and your growing season for bananas is roughly going to be from March to November. March to November. So most of the year, bananas will be growing actively. And like the sort of beginning and tail end of that season is going to be your transition zone where the bananas are waking up in the early spring and going to sleep in the mid-fall. And basically what happens to banana plants in our climate is during the winter months, they will slow or completely stop their growth because the cold temperatures inhibit that growth. They are, subtropical, tropical plants, so they do not grow in cold weather. So they basically just go dormant and they stop growing. They don't lose their leaves or anything like that unless you get a frost. So typically a light frost will cause banana plants will kill the leaves of the plant, but leave the rest of the plant intact. And this is not a big deal. The banana plant will recover in the spring and will grow strongly during the summer. I have had this happen. I've actually grown bananas and fruited them successfully in a colder zone. We are in USDA Hardiness Zone 10A, and I have grown them in USDA Hardiness Zone 9B. And I got a harvest of like almost 160 bananas the same year, the season right after all the leaves got frost killed. So they will recover. They are very hardy plants. The only thing that will actually kill a banana plant is if the ground freezes. And this only happens typically in zone like 8 or 7 or lower. So it's not a big deal. You don't really have to worry about that in our climate. But we're talking about edible bananas here. So there are varieties of bananas that are ornamental that are way more hardy. For example, Musa Basju, the Japanese fiber banana, is known for being hardy down to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And it'll die back in the winter and resprout from the roots in the spring. So some bananas are ultra hardy like that, but in general, edible bananas only make sense in USDA zone 9 and above if you're trying to fruit them outdoors. Okay, perfect. Let's dig a little hole. We're going to start burying it. Now I would say we just want to be careful with how we mix it. It's actually not sitting in there yet, so we should do it again. We should do more. Do you have another shovel?
Yeah.
Let's do teamwork. Additionally, bananas grow extremely rapidly. So that one, about 3 foot tall pup that I brought today, that could be 7, 8 feet tall, maybe even 9 feet tall by November. It's going to be huge. They grow extremely rapidly. A healthy banana plant will grow 1 new leaf every single week. Every single week, folks. Just imagine how much growth that is. So, in many tropical agroforestry systems, this is why bananas, one reason as to why bananas are oftentimes used as a biomass plant, to produce green manure. And to produce lots of organic matter. Because remember, the most important nutrient for our soil is not N, it's not nitrogen, it's carbon. It's carbon, folks. So bananas can sequester massive amounts of carbon into their tissues. They also sequester massive amounts of water. So oftentimes, in tropical agroforestry situations, what the farmers say is when you're planting bananas, you're planting water. Because the bananas are very good at harvesting all that water from the soil during the wet season, and they retain it throughout the dry season. And if you want to transfer this water to other plants, you can cut the banana stems, split them in half, and lay them on the soil surface. And they'll act as water batteries. Because the banana stems are basically 90% water. So, yeah, bananas are a great thing to grow, even for water conservation purposes. Not in our climate, but in more tropical climates where there's a pronounced dry season. They're a fantastic thing to grow to conserve water throughout the dry season. Here, of course, they need irrigation. And bananas require actually about as much irrigation as a lawn does. So don't grow a lawn, grow bananas. They probably require about the same amount of fertilizer, too. I don't know, I'd much rather grow bananas than a lawn. And it's funny because the guy that I got this plant from originally, grows bananas instead of a lawn. He has like 90 banana varieties or something crazy. The people who are banana enthusiasts are crazy about the bananas. And you know what? I was there once. I don't blame them. And why don't we do even one more? I don't blame them at all. I'll do it this time. Okay. So what else did I want to say? I wanted to say something else about bananas, but I forgot. Yeah, they do require, they are like, you know, heavy feeders, I would say, you know, is what they would be called in like traditional gardening culture or whatever. They are quote unquote heavy feeders. That's why we're fertilizing the hole very heavily. Once they're going, they're going. You can feed them with their own residues, you can feed them with cover crops, you can feed them with support species, and they will do fine. You don't necessarily need to give them fertilizer all the time. Just make sure that you incorporate them in a good system. You know, this is basically what we're doing here is agroforestry. So we have our figs on the side, we have our bananas, and this banana variety will actually get pretty tall. It'll get to about 12 feet tall. I would say probably 10 feet tall to 12 feet tall from the base of the soil to the tip of the pseudostem. The leaves will get higher. The leaves can get to like maybe 15 feet tall, 17 feet tall. So they'll get big, provided they do well. And, you know, these fig trees are a bit smaller. They seem to be dwarf varieties. And this, of course, means that the bananas will kind of form a canopy layer over the figs, maybe protect them from a bit of the heat, increase the humidity in the area, and just provide a nice environment for everything else that's growing under here. And lots of biomass. And that's the other thing about bananas. Let's talk about how they tend to produce a harvest and how they yield. So, each one of so that pup that we plant is going to produce one bunch of bananas. One bunch. With this variety, if we get a good yield, I'd say probably about 60, 70, maybe 80 bananas. That's pretty decent. Let's keep doing this. Why not? I think it'll be easier to do it this way, honestly. Other varieties will produce more, some others will produce less. And this is a dessert variety, which means you eat it out of hand just like the Cavendish ones you get at the supermarket. So dessert variety. There are cooking varieties. The plantains you get at the supermarket do not grow here. If you're interested in cooking bananas, grow the Burro bananas, the Orinoco's. Those are even more hardy than the blue java. But blue java is a pretty hardy plant. Not as hardy as some of them, but it's quite hardy, I'd say. That's a big rock. Small rocks are okay, they improve drainage, but not big rocks. Let's get more chicken in there. So, after each stem of a banana, each trunk, we call them pseudostems because they're made of leaves, remember? They're not made of woody material or anything like that. Banana plants are not trees. Each stem will produce one cluster of fruit, one bunch, and then it's going to die. It's going to have completed the end of its life cycle. And then the pups, the daughters and the granddaughters, as we call them, are going to replace it. So, basically, after we have this harvest, once we harvest the bananas, we're also harvesting 100 plus pounds of organic matter and water. And that's very beneficial. And we can utilize that to support the other plants. That's the idea. We'll probably be laying those around the fig trees and around the perimeter and whatnot. So, very, very beneficial to other plants in your system. They do intercrop with vegetables. You know, there's another myth about bananas. You know, their root systems will choke out everything around them. Not true. If you manage them correctly, you can intercrop them with everything from vegetables to fruit trees. And that's what we're doing here. The key is in proper stratification and succession. It's one of my 3 S's of designing effective polycultures. Stratification, succession, and services. Stratification is layering, stratification is layering in space, succession is layering in time, and services is creating effective relationships of mutual support and mutual aid between the plants. So if you follow those 3 principles when you're designing a companion planting system of polyculture, and you understand them well, you will have success. The soil is starting to look really good. I mean, this is good. I can tell that there's still plenty of native soil in here, and that's what we want. In fact, I would say we want to think about introducing worms, and we'll do that at the end. So, does someone mind going and getting some worms for us? I think we'd really benefit from some worms, because we're going to top up the area around the plant, just like the fig trees, with lots of residue, and the area around it, and then the outer rim is going to be sown with the cover crops. So it's really important to get a good combination of residue and cover crops. When I'm planting a large perennial or tree-like banana, I'll put the residue in the middle and the cover crops and leave a little bit of space pretty much out to the drip line, and then the cover crops will be around the edge, like a strip or like a ring of cover crops around the drip line. And then that'll be that. I've gotten great results with that method. You can see it with the fig trees. That's exactly what we did with the fig trees. And so we're replicating that with the bananas. And these fig trees are putting on some nice new growth now. I have high hopes for these guys. And so yeah, that's the thing. Like, every stem only produces one bunch and then it dies. After it's done, you cut it down. Don't even bother leaving it. Just cut it down. It's going to die slowly. You want to make room for the other plants. At that point, after it produces fruit, the rest of the pups that are coming up are keeping it alive, and you don't want it. You don't want that. It's not useful anymore. Biomass. The rest of the plant, the entire plant will appreciate you removing it. So then you just cut it to the ground. You can cut it halfway down and let some of the energy go back into the plant. But you want to at least cut it halfway and toss it to the ground, depending on what you prefer and what you prefer. Yeah, I've seen this variety do very well in a lot of different situations. And you know, that's the other thing. Like, we do have space in the wellness garden. So the question is, why this location? South-facing wall, pretty much full sun much of the year. You know, it is early, and we're getting a bit of shade from this large teakwood tree. That's okay. You want to give bananas like 12 hours of sun a day if you can, but like in the middle of summer, you know, this is definitely going to get like a solid 8 hours, and that's good. That's pretty good. So, yeah, we want to give it full sun, and also this big wall right here, this big brick wall, this cinder block wall, I guess, it's going to act as a huge thermal battery. During the winter, this area is in full sun, and it's going to absorb lots of heat from the sun in the winter, and then that heat is going to be slowly released at night. It's also going to build up heat during the summer. So, but during the summer, it's going to be more shaded, right? Because all the fig trees will have leafed out, the bananas are growing actively, and we're probably also going to be putting some kind of vine along here, a deciduous vine to shade it during the summer. Warm season vine of some kind. I might just straight up plant cucumbers here, but I've also been thinking about doing lupa here. I've been thinking about doing chayote here. I'm kind of leaning towards the chayote, but I'm not sure. So, I just put in chicken there, didn't I? I lose track of what I'm doing as I talk. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. Just try and homogenize as best as you can. And so again, we want this fertilizer for the mycorrhizae. Bananas are mycorrhizal, and a lot of our cover crop is going to encourage the mycorrhizae further. Mycorrhizae have a protective effect against nematodes, folks. So since we have a nematode problem, we're going to want mycorrhizae in the soil. We're going to want mycorrhizae. We're going to want to be planting a nematocidal placenta, as they call it in agroforestry. That is the initial crops that will support your main crop. The initial, like, for example, cover crops, whatever even edible crops you choose as your pioneer plants. In this case, we have our cover crop. So our placenta, that is the Huacate, the sorghum Sudan, the sun hemp, the flax, the buckwheat, the Florida broadleaf mustard, this is our placenta. That's one of the services it's providing to the banana plant. It's nematocidal. And it's going to be the understory of the banana plant as it grows. And even the canopy layer. The sorghum Sudan grass, sun hemp, and Huacate are going to get really tall. And the banana and their growth is going to encourage the banana plant to grow. Because you get just the right amount of competition between the plants to stimulate all of their growth. That's the idea. And then when we prune, it creates a situation, because we're going to cut down the cover crop, especially the sorghum Sudan grass. When we cut down the sorghum Sudan grass to the ground, it's going to create a growth pulse throughout the entire system here. It's going to encourage everything else around it to grow. Because the sorghum Sudan grass is going to shed its roots, and it's going to exude gibberellins into the soil, which is a plant hormone that stimulates growth. And that's going to create a situation where we get hopefully nice, rapid, vigorous growth on the bananas throughout the season. And then this is an annual cover crop. So once it's done, we're chopping and dropping it. So now I'm going to get the banana plant in. Dig a hole deep enough, and again, This is how I'm going to orient it, facing outwards. We need to get it a bit deeper. So this is actually how much we need to add before you plant it. So I'm going to move some of the soil aside. And you don't have to plant the whole pup. This form is not big enough. This bulb is not big enough for me to like cut it off. But if it was bigger, I would cut it off and then save one of the eyes on it. And then plant that down into the soil and then let the eye sprout downwards and then go up. That's what I do if this is bigger. But this is, yeah, it's too small for that. Yeah, we need to go deeper. Yes, you just have to follow the plant and what it's telling you. See, now this is the material after amending. And this is half native soil, folks. Very nice. Your native soil can be good with improvement. So, and these amendments that we're using are so rich in fertility, so biologically active, they are going to be perfect for this banana plant. We're going to create the ideal situation for this plant. That's the idea. Okay. I think that's good. So now we're going to begin burying the pseudostem right there. Pseudostem, as we call it. Not the trunk. Well, it is a trunk. We call it a trunk, but really it's a pseudostem. It's a fake stem, not a real stem. It's made of leaves. Everything above ground is leaf. We'll give it a little slant too. There's a little slant so that it grows out a bit. Casts some nice part shade. Bananas are great at creating part shade. That's the other thing. Services. Create relationships of mutual aid between your plants. The comfrey is going to appreciate part shade. A lot of the California brome grass in our green manure mix is going to appreciate part shade. Even the figs will appreciate a little bit of shade because this is a very hot location. So, create relationships of mutual aid between your plants. Ecosystem services. Cooperation is a law of nature. And the soil actually is a nice sandy loam, which is good too. Banana plants, they do like sandy soils. So if you have a sandy soil like this, it's good. It's good. As long as it's not too sandy. So we need to change up our strategy when it comes to how we mix this in. Because now this is going to be uneven, lest we risk damaging the plant. I would like to get a cultivator. And now we've buried it almost up to the point it needs to be buried. Then we're going to start building the berm. Because we really need that berm. Alright. And the berm, again, it's this structure that we build in the soil. It's an earthwork to capture and retain water. It'll be very beneficial for this water-loving plant. And we're going to have micro sprinklers and drip irrigation around it. I'd say probably let's stick to like the micro sprinklers and multi-stream emitters actually, because we'll be coming in and cutting off cups, and we don't want to damage the drip irrigation. So no drip irrigation. So actually, I know what we need to get. Got your worms?
Yep.
Almost time to put them in.
All right.
Any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or use the Ask a Master Gardener feature on our website. So we're going to use this cultivator fork now. Get it nice and mixed in. And for a permanent ground cover, actually, might choose to establish sweet potatoes here. I know that bananas and sweet potatoes can be polycultured effectively, so it might be a good choice. I may choose to plant sweet potatoes very soon, actually. Sort of like along the edges. Sweet potatoes make a very, very nice ground cover for bananas. Another thing we can consider is black-eyed peas. Next year I want to do black-eyed peas. Here. Not this year. You can see we're getting it all nice and mixed in. And now keep in mind, you're going to want to pile extra soil on here because this is going to settle. It's going to settle. So you want to make sure that we're adding enough. Don't want to damage these guys over here too much. So it's going to settle. Does someone want to transplant those deer flowers?
Yeah.
So keep in mind it's going to settle. I just put one there, didn't I? We can put more organic matter towards the top. And in fact, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put more organic matter towards the top. To create a sort of like, I guess, artificial topsoil. Oh, there's some fungus in the chicken manure. You see that little mycelium there? That's good. We want that. We're just about out of azomite. I might have more, but yeah, so I think this is the best full preparation I've ever done for a banana plant, so we'll see how it does. We're spoiling this one. So I'm going to check for questions really quick after this. No questions. All right. Yeah, it's already starting to get a bit drought stressed, so we need to work fast and give it some water, and it will be okay. It'll be fine. You know, cutting off those roots at the beginning to deal with the nematodes will be a bit of a shock, so it'll be okay. You know what I would really like is the action hoe. Do you know where that is? I have not seen it. You can check in the shed. The action hoe is really good for precision raking. Or what else they call it, hula hose. I really like hula hose. Get yourself a hula hoe if you have an in-ground garden. And we're going to start bringing this other material around here now. This other soil to form a berm. But I think we're not quite ready yet. I think we need to do a couple more applications. We're looking good so far. I would have even liked to plant this a little bit further back, but I think this is going to be okay. Just think about it. It's going to spread all the way out here eventually. It's going to be all the way to here. So we're going to need to move these borders to account for the size of the banana plant. And so I think we want to kind of do some work right here. And that won't take too long. That won't be too bad. Okay. So, yeah, and this is the one that I like to smooth out the soil. The hula hoe or action hoe. It's a lot more precise than like a rake. So if you're trying to smooth out the soil in small areas, this one's really good. I can smell that chicken manure. You want to use aged or composted manure when you're using manure, folks. Do not use fresh manure. It contains inorganic nitrogen. It can burn your plants and damage your soil. Let's get some more of that native soil in there. Native soil is your friend, not your enemy. It's all about unlocking the potential of your native soil. That's what the purpose of a good amending program is. Now, I could have added sulfur to reduce the soil pH, but we're going to try without that. We don't want to mess with the soil chemistry too much. The main objective here is to add organic matter and to create soil structure. The cover crops will create soil structure. Our placenta. Oh, that was kind of bad. Poor aim.
Oh.
I need to have them order more azomite for me.
Okay.
I love azomite. One of the inputs that I'll use, but only when preparing a site. I'm not going to add inputs on a continuous basis. I don't garden like that. I create self-sustaining systems that feed themselves. And it's honestly, I think it's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Because then you're working with nature. You're employing nature's operating system to grow food. We'll end up with the healthiest plants that way.
You're working with
And the biggest yields. Overall. Like, the thing I like to point out is that, you know, if you're growing a Three Sisters, you're not going to get as much corn as a corn monoculture. When you combine the yields of corn, beans, and squash, you will get more than monocultures of all the same crops combined. You will get more yield in terms of calories and in terms of biomass. And that's what we're doing here. We're applying a complex system. I mean, we have strawberries, we have garlic chives, we're going to have Peruvian goldenberry or sunberry. We're going to have chiquiline. We're going to have all sorts of stuff here. It's going to be great. So, I think, you know, it's time to start thinking about constructing the berm. So we're going to construct our berm. I want to pull this back. I don't mind staying on the line for longer. So we're going to pull this back a bit. We're going to take out these wood, these logs. And I'd like to pull back the weed plot a bit more. Because when I designed this area, I wasn't planning on putting bananas here. So we need to make a couple adjustments. And that's okay. So we're going to find this weed plot and we're going to pull it back. Right here. See, there's still lots of nice wood chip soil under here, so we can scoot that on top. We'll pull this back. And there's even, look. And see, this is a sign of healthy soil once again. This is a Bromus carinatus, a native brome grass that we're using as a support species for other plants. Look at the rhizosheaths on that puppy. The soil clinging to the roots. That is called a rhizosheath, and it is built by mycorrhizal fungi. So that's how we know we're getting good mycorrhizae here. We're already having good mycorrhizal populations, but we want more. And look at this California poppy. This came out too. Look at the taproot on the California poppy. Think about how you can use native plants in your cover crops. What is this poppy going to do for you, aside from attracting beneficial insects? Is it going to bust up compaction? Look at that. Think about these things. Look at how a plant grows, and look at its structure and its anatomy, and then think critically about what that plant can do for your system and for the ecosystem. This one too. It's interesting to see this. Like again, Spanish lotus, another native plant. Kind of like a taproot system, huh? Do we see any nodules on here? I don't see any on here, but I'm sure there are nodules on some of these plants. So it's cool to like examine these things. I love examining the plants that come out when I pull them up, either intentionally or accidentally. Examining for all these things. You can see. Let's see how these guys are dealing with the compaction. So these guys are building soil. This is the native soil. We can see, as we take this apart, all the roots are busting through that compaction. They're getting in there. And now our soil is starting to become crumbly and rich. This is starting to become good soil now. Regenerative agriculture, folks. We're getting all kinds of roots here now. So let's pull this back a bit. Then we're going to start constructing our berm. We're gonna start over there we're gonna connect the comfreys. That's the goal. We're gonna connect the comfreys. Have a little bit of space in front for a warm season cover crop. So yeah, I think we're gonna need to start pulling this back. And again, I don't mind keeping the live going for longer today. That's totally fine. And we're also going to need to start thinking about watering in that banana plant. But we want to make the berm first because we want to see if we need to add more topsoil. Because again, that wood chip soil, that wood chip compost, those wood chips that we got from PPM that have been breaking down for 5 years or more, that's great topsoil. So we'll just add that on top. Maybe a little bit more chicken manure. I can already see fig roots in here. And that's fine. Look at how these guys are clinging to the plastic. Flax, more California brome. Life finds a way. Because this right here, this weed fabric, it served its purpose, but now it's just sitting there generating microplastics, so we don't need it. And it's preventing proper soil formation. You know, unless, I would always advise if you need like some kind of weed barrier to use cardboard, unless you're dealing with extremely noxious perennial weeds, like Bermuda grass or bindweed. Then you can consider something else. But just understand that if you use anything synthetic that doesn't biodegrade, you are inhibiting soil formation. And you're not going to end up with this healthy plant at the end of the day. And if you're okay with that, then that's your choice. And see, this is all the good stuff in here. We're going to use this as our topsoil. We're going to rake this back after we've built the berm. Because it does contain wood chips, some of that mulch could be beneficial. Oh yeah, here we go. Look at that, nodulation on the Spanish lotus. There we go. Look at those nodules, folks. Look at the nodules. You see that? You see those little bumps on the roots? In this case, we're not dealing with nematodes, we're dealing with nitrogen-fixing bacteria. They are beneficial. These bacteria are harvesting nitrogen from the atmosphere and feeding it to this plant. And this is a native Spanish lotus, as they call it. I don't know why they call it that. Or American lotus, or American bird's foot trefoil. The binomial name, so that you guys know what I'm talking about, is Acmaspon americanus. And this is a woodland plant. So you can see those nodules on there on the roots. So these are the houses. These are the condominiums for the nitrogen-fixing bacteria. And these bacteria are harvesting nitrogen from the atmosphere and feeding it to the plant. Then when we chop and drop this plant and feed it to our other plants, it's nitrogen fertilizer, folks. This is nature's operating system. Where did the shears go? I put them right here. Oh. I just wanted to point that out really quick. So, yeah, no evidence of nematodes either. But you know, we're gonna do the nematicidal cover crop, and then we'll think about establishing the same native perennial green manure mix here next year, or something similar. Because I always like to opt for the natives at the end of the day. I just know what can deal with nematodes, and that's the issue we're facing. So we want to address the problem and make sure that we do it correctly. So I want to pull this back a bit more, but you can see we're going to construct this nice berm connecting the two countries together. And that'll provide a nice basin for our banana plants. So that when we water them, the water will settle inside of the area. We just have to be careful in the winter to turn off all the irrigation in the area. So we're going to have like selective irrigation, because you do not irrigate bananas in the winter. That's another thing that I need to mention. Very important for growing bananas in California. Do not irrigate them in the winter. They do not like cool, wet soil. So if your soil gets too wet and too waterlogged during the winter, then your banana plants will get root rot and they can die. So do not irrigate in the winter. This is also why you want well-draining soil for bananas. So, because if you have well-draining soil, it's less likely to become waterlogged. Okay, so where are these? So we have a little bit more to remove, and then we can finish this planting site. So this is kind of an experiment. I'm not sure how well the bananas and figs will work together, but I've seen people get fruit trees and bananas to work very well together. My concern is that the fruit trees are going to be more mature than the bananas, and they may inhibit the bananas. So we'll see what happens. That's my main concern for this site. Again, I'm not really that worried about the nematodes because we have a plan to deal with the problem. And we're going to deal with the problem while improving soil health and while benefiting the whole system. In the world of agroecology, ecology applied to agriculture, every action you take is a win-win-win-win. All the time. It's all about creating life. Alright, I think that's adequate. Because we're extending it out here. So, no more microplastics. Alright, so now I'm going to take the hula hoe, and I'm going to begin bringing this excess native soil out. And we'll probably kill some of our crop while doing this, but it's okay. So I want to bring this out. You can see, like, whatever we're killing, this is going to become food. We still have plenty, so I'm not too worried. So we'll begin bringing that out. I'm going to use this side. We do it like this and control more soil. So you can see what we're doing here. We're starting to bring the soil over so that we can begin constructing a berm. And there was lots of life in the soil around here already. It's going to spread. We're trying to preserve what we have on the side over here. I might also use my hands to kind of like remove some of this stuff. And a lot of it will grow through here and it will be fine. You know, I'm not too worried about these edges right here. But you know, we want to bring all this material, this topsoil back out. And then we're going to add more of our organic matter to bulk it up, because we're going to need a bit more bulk here. And then we're going to mix it in. And then we'll have the perfect medium for our cover crops. The perfect area for our cover crops and to retain water for the bananas. And we'll see when we fill it up what happens. It's going to retain a bunch of water. That's what we want. It's the most efficient use of water. And we do want rainwater to soak in during the winter. That's going to charge up the area with water for the summer and reduce our watering needs and create a situation where the plant is healthier. We just want to make sure that in the winter it's not excessive. You know. Okay. So that's the perfect depth for the banana. So we're bringing this stuff out now. Bring it out. And I want to introduce some more of the topsoil. So let's bring it out and we'll start mixing it in this pile. We'll start mixing it in. Because like a lot of our warm season cover crops do like soil with higher organic matter content. You know, like it's not a bad thing to use stuff like this. And the rest of this we'll use in the fruit tree area. We're going to use all of this. Nothing will go to waste. Sure, we're over time, so we'll stay on. It's fine. I want to demonstrate the entire process of how to properly do this. Okay, let's see, what time is it? No questions. Yeah, it's 10:34. There's actually something you could do for me, Nellie. I would greatly appreciate it if you'd take my water bottle right there, go into the office and fill it up at the sink with the filtered water. Thank you so much. I'm getting thirsty. I'm running off of lots of caffeine right now, as I'm sure you all can imagine. Unfortunately, a very caffeine-dependent person. So, we'll bring all this stuff back. We'll add more topsoil. And you can already see, like, we're getting the structure of this berm built. You know, then we're going to mix it in. We're going to mix in this organic matter as best we can. I really wish I brought my fork. I forgot my fork. But, you know, we can still get it mixed in reasonably well, I think. Do you want to come help me mix it when you're done there, Joe?
I'll come and mix it right now.
Yeah. How are the deer weeds looking?
The first one's in, working on the second one.
Awesome. Yeah, so we'll talk more about deerweed or deer flower in a future live stream and why we're planting it with a lot of our other natives and what its role and function and purposes. But for right now, we're going to focus on this. So let's just start mixing this.
Sure. So you want me to use the action hoe? Or the
I
shovel?
think in this situation, probably a shovel action, because this is not working like how I'd like it to.
Okay.
But yeah, all this organic matter that we got here, we're going to get some green stuff in there, but the rest of this is going to be laid on top, and we're also going to inoculate with mushrooms as part of the plan to deal with the nematodes. What's that?
This with this?
No. So just this pile right here, we're going to start mixing it up and homogenizing it.
Gotcha.
This is native soil that has been amended with the wood chip topsoil. I'm going to start bringing more native soil over here.
This is for the berm, correct?
This is for the berm.
Okay.
Earthworks. Very beneficial. And also, we are on a slight south-facing slope, which is going to help us harvest water even more effectively. Like the thing we really want for bananas is spring rains and monsoon rains. So we'll pray for the rain. Hopefully we get some spring rains. The banana will be in heaven if we get spring rain. But yeah, so also, that's right, seasonality. When is the best time to plant bananas? March. Here's a rule of thumb for planting bananas. Once nighttime temperatures are consistently at or above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're talking about nighttime lows, folks, consistently above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you have a couple nights in the high 40s, it's totally fine. But as long as like you're pretty solidly above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, then you're in business to plant bananas. You can plant them later, but you know, as with all tropicals, the earlier you can get them established, the better, because they're going to need to build up a lot of vitality and a lot of strength to weather our winters. So just keep that in mind. I think, you know, we're almost done mixing it, and we'll start shaping it, and we'll see if we need additional topsoil. That's well mixed enough, and we'll use the rest of that to create a topsoil layer. So let me see. I'll actually bring some more of this stuff over. I can see that this is already sinking.
Yeah, it's flush.
So we're going to need to, and because once we add the water, it's gonna sink quite a bit. So it's going to go down to several inches. That's why adding mulch is important. So yeah, I think this is good. This is great.
Okay. And
then we'll extend this all the way over there.
Okay.
So yeah, let's start shaping it. Let's make it into a berm. I'm going to use this, and you can I think the action will probably be more useful, maybe even a rake.
Okay.
So yeah, we want the berm to be about as high as the other ones, and we want it to extend all the way over to the comfrey. We want to connect the comfreys, basically. That's the goal. Because the comfreys will help bind the soil here. That's a big fig tree root. Hopefully we didn't damage that too much. We'll cover it up with wood chips. I think it'll be fine. Trees can take a lot of abuse. Especially fig trees. Fig trees are very vigorous. They can handle a lot of disturbance. Thank you so much, Nelly. So yeah, we're building that berm, and we're going to want to start shaping it with our hands for sure. We want to get like a good shape on it, and I can already see that we need to extend it out a bit more over here to make sure that it connects properly. Now we can do a straight berm, more of like a swale kind of berm. That's totally fine. And I think we could even probably bring it in a little bit more. And this will give us a little bit more wiggle room to plant cover crops along the front. So we'll bring this berm in. We want to make sure that it's nice and straight, nice and even,
I'm
nice
keep
and
working
level.
on the deer.
Okay. I'm just going to do like a border.
And again, this is for harvesting water, folks. This is going to really help us harvest water in the area. That's what we want. It's going to make the irrigation way more efficient. And you know, having like a longer flat berm will be beneficial for the cover crops too. We just want to keep in mind that these cover crops are going to cast a lot of shade, so we need to manage them. Okay, looking good. Let's bring this up a bit more. We want it to be roughly as high as the other berms.
Your water's right there.
Thank you. Let's have it curl in a little bit. We want it to curl in a little bit. Just a tad, just a hair. Have it like curve in. Because then it's going to encourage the water to pool a bit more. We want it to pool around the bananas a bit. Just a bit. Yeah, I'm thinking about the eventual extent of the bananas. So we're going to mulch out to the drip line for now, do the cover crops in the rest of the area, and then slowly manage and remove the cover crops as needed. So, and then we're also going to need to hook up irrigation here. So we'll do that as well before we install the cover crops. So what I'm thinking irrigation-wise is multi-stream, more multi-streams there, and a couple around the bananas. You can get the multi-stream emitters, Nelly, like the irrigation stuff. Okay, great. Looking really good. Okay. Get this berm made. It's not as even as I'd like it, so I'm going to smooth it out. You can see this is how we capture water. This is how we capture water. I'm going to bring this part out a bit more. I do want it to be sort of like a crescent shape. That's the goal. And keep in mind that like the bananas are going to grow out. They're going to grow towards me. So we want it to have sort of that shape, but we don't want it to be too round. Looking good so far. Yeah, earthworks is an art form in and of itself, and you know, it's something I'm still learning. But I'm getting my practice right here. Looking good so far. All right, look at that. Fantastic. We're getting there. I'm seeing it starting to connect with the other berm now. That's what we want. Connect it. We want to just get it to connect. Okay, I'm going to take a look at this. I need a bird's eye view. Yeah, it's starting to look good. You can see how we're doing this. Looking great. It's kind of hard to see the berm from this angle. I'll bring it around a bit. Let me go on this side actually. Lighting. You can see right here, like so. Banana plants right there. You need about 3 feet by 3 feet of space for bananas. So I might actually bring the berm in a tad more. I might actually take it back to the strawberries. But I'm trying to plan for like where these plants are going to be long term. You know, it's all. I'm going off of intuition here. So, and yeah, I have plenty of experience with bananas. So I'll bring it back a bit more. I'm going to take it to these plants right here. Let's see. Taking it in between the comfrey and in between the food crop that you find right here, which is garlic chives, strawberries. We could definitely do strawberries on the front of the berm or something else, because eventually we'll be putting a couple like low-lying food plants in front of here that will cover the area. So yeah, I think this is good. Let's have a look from the other side. Yeah, that's better. I like that. So yeah, that's good stuff. I like the position of this berm. So we need to make it a little higher and shape it a bit more. And the way we do that is usually by adding topsoil. Keep in mind, we want to save enough to add a layer in all the cover crop areas about a half an inch thick, quarter of a half an inch thick. Does that look level? It looks pretty level. I think that spot right there, yeah. Yeah, it's a bit lopsided. Yeah, thank you. I already see some worms in here, which is good. The worms have been encouraged by this cover crop that we planted. Looking great. Bring that out a bit more. We want it to be a bit more crescent shaped than that. It's a bit flat looking right now. Get that plastic out of the way. Plastic is so overused in our landscape. It's just not good. And a lot of these guys from the cover crop are going to self-seed here too, which is good. We want these native cover crops to come up wherever they please. But at this point, this year again, we want to focus on getting rid of that nematode issue. We don't want the nematodes inhibiting our banana plants. And thankfully, it doesn't appear to be that bad right now. But you know, it could get worse if we don't get on top of that. So we want to make sure that we deal with the nematode issue using life processes that simultaneously enrich the soil. Okay, we need to bring some of this stuff back. And we'll worry about the irrigation. And then I'm going to delineate the mulch zone and where that's going to transition to the cover crop zone. All right. How does that look? That looks a lot better. I think we can still bring it
Yeah.
And that's where a tool like this really comes in handy. Here. Nice
Yeah.
and smooth. Okay,
That's much better.
that's a nice berm. I've gotten pretty good at making berms. Yeah, and like this whole water can pool in this whole area, which is the good thing. So we need some green stuff. We need some green manure. Where can we get green manure right now? Right here. We'll get a little bit from here. But before we do the green manure, I want to do the final fertilization of the bananas. So I'm going to do a little bit more chicken manure. Can you see if we have more azomite in there, Nelly? Let's do some more chicken manure. Just around the base. This is now we're building our topsoil layer here. Wood chip soil. Yeah, that's for the aquaponics system. We don't want to use that.
Okay.
It's okay. We already put azomite. Topsoil. We're just gonna start building it up now. I'm gonna not go that heavy on the chicken manure because this is gonna explode. This is gonna grow explosively with all this chicken manure. I don't want to put too much. It is possible to over-apply chicken manure, folks, so be careful. But if it's aged, it's harder to over-apply, you know? I need the bigger shovel. How's my battery doing? That's the real question. How's my battery life? 26%. I don't think I have my charger with me today. That's a problem. I'll have to go home and get it. Good thing I live close by. I remember when I was working like all the way in Long Beach, that was no good. If I forgot my charger while I was still working in Long Beach, which has happened, it definitely happened a couple times, I'd be SOL. And I wouldn't be able to tell my mom when I'm coming home so I can watch my son and take care of that. So. Very nice. Yeah, we'll save the rest of this, I think, because we need to have a lot of this stuff. So, yeah, let's put this here, spread it out, get it all nice and mixed in. I can smell that chicken manure. Now we're going to think about green manure. So, I'm going to take some green manure from over here. Can I have those shears, please? These peas have gotten pretty overgrown. I want to save a lot of them for the bed over here because we're doing cassava here very soon. I'm very excited about the cassava. But I think we can take some. And some of these will volunteer, and that's okay. So it's good to have some like nice green plant material. We do have powdery mildew here, but I don't think that's that big of a deal. People get too like worked up about plant diseases, in my opinion. Most disease problems can be solved with healthy soil. So we actually do need to end the live soon because we have a meeting. But we have about 5 more minutes. So yeah, I just want to smooth this out at this point, make sure it's nice and smooth. Get some of this debris out of here. Because the cover crops are probably going to start, they're going to start wherever the green manure and the mulch stops. So, and that will be determined by my judgment. But, you know, this is to demonstrate how to plant the bananas more. So, that was the point of this live. We can talk about the cover crops a little bit, and we did, but yeah, I'm more concerned about planting the bananas. And we've accomplished that goal. So that's good. I need more green manure. There's never enough green manure. I think we can start cutting this comfrey, to be honest. And comfrey is great because it accumulates potassium. So, you know, you all know how much bananas have potassium. That means they require lots of potassium in the soil. Those potassium tubes. They need lots of potassium available. So we want to make sure that we give them enough potassium. And comfrey is really good at that. And so we don't need to do a lot. we can leave them whole. And since we're not growing tomatoes here and we have diseased tomatoes, we can also take the diseased tomatoes. The pests that are attacking the tomatoes do not attack the bananas. So yeah, we have all these tomatoes here. They'll come back. These are perennialized now, officially. We'll probably get some tomatoes growing in with the bananas, which will be super cool. I love this variety. Matt's Wild Cherry. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before. We're going to just take a lot of this material that's kind of growing over the side, and that has spider mite issues and blight issues, because again, not a problem for bananas. And we're going to apply this as a green manure. See, we got plenty. We got plenty. So, use whatever's around you. Just know how to use it properly. That's the key. Just know how to use whatever you're going to use. Does someone else mind hosting the meeting from their phone? Since my phone's going to die? Get that material in here. I wish I had my hori knife, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to bring that here. It's a big, like, garden knife. It's basically a mini machete. But, you know, it's worth investing in a hori or machete if you're going to grow lots of bananas. It'll save you a lot of energy and time, because it's really good for dealing with the foliage and the biomass. I've never seen spider mites on bananas. I've never seen powdery mildew on bananas. I have never seen, this is actually the first time I've seen nematode on bananas, and I've never seen blight on bananas. So all these diseases that everyone's super worried about, we can use the diseased foliage here, no problem. Not a big issue. So now, that's going to be the area that's going to get mulched, and everything else is getting cover crops. So now we're going to take some of this topsoil, mix it with wood chips, and pile it back on. Bananas love their organic matter. Oh, I forgot to add more fertilizer, but it's fine. There's plenty in the hole. Yeah, because of the mycorrhizae. But, you know, it got around the root zone, and that's what's important. We want all that good mycorrhizae around the root zone. So we're going to add all this. And then we're going to hook up irrigation and sow the cover crops. And we're going to have to do that off of the live, because we have a meeting in a couple minutes. So, and then we'll be done. We'll have bananas in about 2 years. They will begin producing in 2 years, and they will continue to produce every year after that. It's well worth it to grow bananas. I highly advocate for growing bananas if you are able to, if you have water, especially if you have like a rainwater catchment system. That's the ideal situation to grow them, because they do require lots of water once again. But so do everyone's lawns. So don't grow a lawn, grow bananas. So you can see we're really piling on that organic matter. And now, that's right, the last thing I would like to do is inoculate with mushrooms to help deal with the nematodes. So let's go to our mushroom bed over here. You guys remember the mushroom bed that we started in the fall? I think we're going to start getting fruit soon. So that is mushrooms. So that's very exciting. But it's right here. And if we dig through here, 10:55, okay. We dig through here, we'll find some nice bits of mycelium. And if I don't see it, then it's a sign that we need more water. But yeah, this is good stuff. And like this type of mushroom, the wine cap, it chews through wood chips like nobody's business. So we'll use this stuff. We're gonna just mix it in. And it'll begin to take. And wine caps are not very picky about what they like to eat. As long as it's brown enough, they'll eat it. They'll eat leaves, they'll eat wood chips, they'll eat crop residues. And they'll kill nematodes. Multi-pronged strategy here. You know, because I'm not exactly sure how much all of this is going to work against the nematodes, but if you use multiple strategies, you increase your odds. So then we're going to open up. We don't want all the mulch to be right up next to the banana stem. We just want it to be covered up to the area where it was. And that's it. We have planted it. Now we water it in, we install irrigation, and we sow the cover crop. And that's it. We have planted bananas. There are now bananas in the wellness garden. I'm very excited. Next week we will be talking about moringa, so stay tuned for that. Moringa is another plant that I really love. So check it out, bananas. Did you get those worms in? Let's put the worms in. That's the last thing we got to do. So let's get the worms in because we need to have worms to help break down the organic matter. Let's get this plastic out of here. We don't want more plastic. Thank you. So we'll get these worms in from our worm farm. Highly recommend thank you, Nelly. Highly recommend having a worm farm because not only is it a great way to compost, produces some of the highest quality compost ever, you essentially have a continuous supply of worms to introduce to your soil, which is fantastic. So let's get these in here. And then we water. Let's flood irrigate the whole area now. Well, so we can see how much the soil is going to settle. So we're going to flood irrigate, and that's it. Thank you for tuning in today, everybody. Remember, Ask a Master Gardener feature on our website. We're always willing to help you with your garden. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat during these lives as well. Thank you for joining us today for this extra time. It was a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see these bananas grow up. We will be providing regular updates on the bananas. So stay tuned for more lives, and you can keep up on the growth of this blue Java banana plant. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. And we will see you next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. to talk about propagating moringa. So thank you so much. Bye. Oh, there we go. See you later. Have a good one.